Many programmers eventually realized that they will need to use Linux for development. And what exactly makes Linux so popular? Why do they realize this? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. So, you know what? Let's get started. The first thing is that Linux is free and it runs on anything. Anyone can download and use Linux for free. Whether it's Ubuntu, Mint, or CentOS, you can quickly download a copy and try out many distributions without paying a cent for it. The great thing about Linux is that it can run on most hardwares. The Android OS is built on top of Linux and runs on millions of smartphone devices. And if you even put a little bit of effort, you can run Linux on your Mac machine. Even though off-the-shelf PC computers often come with a Windows pre-installed, a standalone copy of Windows requires you to actually buy a license, and we know Mac OS only works on Mac hardware. So this is one thing that makes Linux so versatile, is that it can work on Windows and Mac. It's free and it's also very easy to install. The second one is the command line tools. As a programmer, you know that you're going to deal with the command line a lot, and typing a command is much more faster than using the mouse to click and navigate through the endless files and folders. Linux command line programs are very simple. Let me just give you a little bit of the most common commands that Linux uses. We have the CP for copying a file, we have the MV for moving a file, we have RM for deleting a file, touch for actually creating an empty file, make directory, which is for creating a new directory, CD for changing directory, and find, which lists all your files in a directory. Everyday tasks can easily be performed through the Swift terminal commands. The third one is using scripts in Linux is very easy. Combining multiple commands together is a very powerful way of actually creating a sophisticated bash script. Once a script is created, then you can save it and actually easily execute the script in order to automate a task. For example, if you wanted to create a script that makes a backup of a project directory, you would create a script like this. And this script right now might look like gibberish to you at first, but it actually is very simple. Here we combine the zip command with the date command. The script will create a zip file called bkp, which will be on May 24th, 2021.zip, which contains the project directory. And why we can do this is because the file name is actually generated automatically based on the current date. What we can also do is we can add additional logic to actually upload the file to Google Drive or send the file to someone via email. Why I brought scripts up is they are an important part of everyday operation as a developer. Even though you don't want to create your own scripts, there's a big chance that you use scripts that are written by someone else. Another thing about Linux that is known is that it has great security. While Windows allows you to do just about anything as a normal user, and this right here is what makes it susceptible to virus, Linux is more strict about file permission. For example, on Linux, certain files can only be modified by the super user via the sudo command. It's good practice for Linux users to avoid using the sudo command so they don't take advantage of the heightened security. Linux allows you to set granular permission to a file for reading, writing, and execution. For example, if you want to make sure that a file cannot be modified or deleted, you can make it read only. So right now, no more accidental file deletion. Linux viruses are practically unheard of. However, if you want to go running third-party scripts and being very careless with the sudo commands, then you're practically just inviting trouble. The next one is that Linux is stable as a rock. Regardless of how intuitive, slim, or fast Linux is, none of that will matter if Linux wasn't stable. Windows have a reputation of actually giving their users the dreaded blue screen of death, and macOS is also not perfect either. And these two systems occasionally crash or they have some boot issues. But Linux in particular is shown to have a rock-solid stability. It's incredibly rare for a Linux system to actually crash or become unresponsive. And in the worst cases, the GUI layout might exhibit issues, but the core system will still run fine, allowing you a path towards restoring the system to the good state that it was by maybe rebooting. What we're talking about next is the backbone of the web. So due to the core security and stability of Linux, it has become the backbone of the web. Linux is used for over 40% of the known websites on the web. And that might not seem much to you, but let me just compare it with Windows Server, which comprise of less than 25%, and while other server types actually make up the remaining share. Another great thing about Linux is that it's totally customizable. While Windows or Mac might only allow you to customize the wallpaper and make minor adjustments to the interface, Linux provides tons of more options, and this is why we have KDE and Unity, which are one of the numerous GUIs that you can actually install on your Linux machine. And what we need to know is that some Linux GUIs are optimized for performance and using minimum memory. Other GUIs, on the other hand, are geared towards providing beautiful and smooth experience similar to Windows or Mac. Another really great thing about Linux is that it has an open source ecosystem. Aside from simply customizing the look of the operating system, Linux is entirely open source, which means that you can download the source code, make whatever changes you want to it, and build your own version of Linux. And obviously this fact tends to resonate mostly with hardcore programmers. Many users love the open source aspect of Linux on a principle basis alone. It's the idea that you have complete freedom from litigation and copyright issues that make it very enticing. For example, Facebook was initially built on the LAMP stack, which is Linux, Apache, MySQL and PHP, a bundle of open source programs that allow web developers to build full web applications. Entrepreneurs love Linux, not just because it's free, but also because it represents creative freedom. And this is where we're going to stop. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and this video right here will make you understand why Linux is so important to developers, and even encourage you to start learning a little bit of Linux and maybe installing it on your local computer. And yes guys, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like for the YouTube algorithm. Comment down below if you have any questions or additions. I'm gonna wrap this up and I'll catch you all on the next one.